Yes, it's the last day of the working week. By no means the last of our appearance here. By no means also not the least of the very best of our efforts to give you the best in television programming. Good morning and welcome to the Morning Brief on Channels Television. And we're live for you right here from our global headquarters in Lagos. I am Bukola Koka, always blessed among men. Kayode and Jeffrey. Good morning, guys.
Good morning to you. How have you been?
Very, very blessed.
Come on. We were here together yesterday. How have you been?
How have you been in the last 24 hours? It's just a question, man. You don't know what happened in between the nights, you know. Whatever she did, you know, whether she took a rest or she continued working hard or she didn't sleep because of tough stories, whatever it is, you know.
Jeffrey, you go explain tired.
Good morning. Welcome to the program. I'm Jeffrey Uzama.
We're live for you in Lagos. We're hoping we can infect you with the dose of optimism, joy, excitement on this side. I'm Kayode Okikulu.
So, guys, I'm wondering, how has the last few days been for you, particularly since May 20, last 2 weeks now, May 29, celebration of unbroken democracy, and June 12, celebration of
So for me, two things are on my mind. I don't even want to go to the government because we already know what their inadequacies and shortcomings are for the most part. Citizens, we also need to take responsibility. Kayode was I complain a lot about these people because they've shown me shaggy in this Lagos. Those guys are the Kara. What's the right term they used to describe when you come out from a bend into the express? I can't remember now. When I remember,
okay, like the bypass,
yes,
or the underpass.
So if you're coming from, say, places like Isheri or Ogba, there are places. Okay, so let's say the new garage here. You enter the express. That junction, where those buses, they will just park a bit. So it's like a 4-lane expressway. So they park on almost 3. So you're forced to enter the express at the very dangerous point of the expressway when people are coming at high speed. So it's just a bad situation, just disaster waiting to happen. And it's everybody who uses that area knows. And just not too far away from there, we have policemen always doing checks and all of that. Maybe they will take their checks. I don't know who were to hold responsible. Is it Ogun State now, Lagos State? I'm not sure who, but that thing is really bad, is really dangerous. You force drivers to enter the express directly instead of entering from that very corner. They enter the express and anything can happen. And tomorrow, if it happens, you say, oh, the devil. There is no devil anywhere. This is not Bola Tinubu's problem. This is a basic problem we can solve even at the local government level. So I need to get out of my mind because they did it to me today. Like, what is going on?
I think you make a very vital point, actually, about that. And I think we've said this before. We had, I think, VIO on the show recently, and we talked about...
VIS or VI...
Well, the Vehicle Inspection Officer, but the services... we had the VIO on the show. And, we talked about public transport, commercial transports, how we need to pay a lot of attention to them. Because what you talked about is a major headache. If you're meant to link the road, you're meant to start from the extreme lane, not drive right in the middle of the road. Because it's a highway, for crying out loud. There's no speed limit. Highways, you could do 80, 100.
Express.
Exactly, you do 140. So imagine a vehicle coming at 120, and then because you cannot get into the road on that extreme lane, you go right in the middle. That's an accident.
And it's so bad. So there's one in front of you. You're trying to see this way to make sure you don't, and then you're looking behind to be sure there's no vehicle. Some are also parked here. So they're blocking your view to your left, blocking your view to your right, and you're just caught in between. So you're forced to slow down and move like a snail just so they don't get caught up. What in the world is the meaning of all of that?
So we're calling out, is it Ogun State's traffic management last month?
Doesn't make sense.
Even the VIS, everybody,
Federal Road Safety Corps.
They need to pay attention to public vehicles as well.
Yellow buses.
Yellow buses, whatever you want to call it, whatever color it is in your state, they need to pay attention to those vehicles. Don't look away. We see these things. You just seem to look away when they are parked illegally, when they are stopped right in the middle of the road trying to pick passengers. Pay attention to them. Public transports matter as well, guys.
Well, you didn't have to end it like that.
That has been the story of my life for the longest time coming, having to travel every day of the week along the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway. But that's not what's uppermost in my mind, guys, this morning. For me, it's a reflection on democracy, the celebration of 25 years of unbroken democracy. And, by extension, anyway, this challenge of management, of traffic is, a byproduct of what you always describe as what you ordered versus what you got. And it seems as if the celebration of democracy every year, is a celebration of what our democracy has engendered. That's a political elite. If you look at the corridors of power, it would appear as if it's a celebration at that level, not a thing of rejoicing across board for all Nigerians, regardless of where they are on what I often call the political, social, the social economic ladder. So it's something for us to consider, particularly, when you look at analysis by international organizations, where Oxfam, to be precise, which says that $29.9 billion, that's the wealth of 5 richest Nigerian men, if shared across board of 112 million poor Nigerians, it could solve potentially the problem of poverty. So we hope that in the coming years, when we celebrate democracy, it will be a more even celebration as a result of a more even distribution of wealth and resources. That's the sense I'm getting, guys, that this celebration is not across board. Not all Nigerians are celebrating democracy.
You can say that again.
Yeah.
Really.
So we have quite a lot for you, starting also with democracy at 25. Still in the spirit, we look at the efficacy of the elements of the celebration of our democratic values. What about the structure required for transition from one government to another? So we ask, how well has our voting system, political party structure, and the rule of law combined to deliver free and fair elections? This we ask among many other questions bedeviling our democracy this morning.
Of course, that's what all suspense mounts over the new minimum wage by organized labor. They may have returned to work, but perhaps with reservations, as its leadership refuted the president's statement that a new minimum wage has been agreed or reached. The suspense mounts now as Labour awaits a pronouncement from the president on the proposals presented by the negotiating parties as a tripartite committee. What will it be, and how will the Labour unions react to all of this? Let's hear from the horse's mouth this morning as they come on the show to tell us exactly what may be next for them.
Absolutely. It's a big one, really. But that's not all. Today, we also visit the road less traveled as we turn the spotlight on albinism, an uncommon genetically inherited condition that results in a skin devoid of pigmentation, causing unusually pale skin, as you can see there. They are our neighbors, our friends, colleagues, loved ones, the list goes on and on. But how are we helping to protect them? Now, that is a big question we seek to get answers to, and maybe I'll pick your minds this morning.
Exactly.
But that's not all yet again. We get up close with Tola in Iwaju series. The magic color and bright lights of Disney is not the exclusive preserve of those within its precincts in California, USA. Nigeria's Simisola Gbadamosi brings Disney to your television screens because she's a 10-year-old who plays Tola, the voice Tola in Iwaju series, that imagines a futuristic Lagos, Nigeria, where she finds herself embroiled in a high-stakes, technologically advanced tug of war. Tola is worth the wait, guys, so keep it locked.
Well, that will not be all. You know how we do it. Bring those conversations to the social media, and our responsibility to find them and amplify them. But if you can't go to X, of course, you can go to WhatsApp, send your videos and your messages, and we'll amplify it right here on the show. We call it a community show for a reason. And if your eyes are on South Africa, just like mine is also on South Africa, in about a few hours from now, we'll find out what will be happening in that parliament. Also send it to us, because it's an international station. We're here to blow it up, not in the bad way, to amplify it, I should have said.
Quite a lot to learn from that electoral process.
Yes, I've been following it closely. So let's see what happens today, later on, in the Parliament of South Africa. And of course, but let's face the one that concerns us first, Nigeria.
So it's a rich bouquet that will begin unfolding right after this time out with the top stories. Stay with the Morning Brief. We'll be right back. Welcome back. So we start off from the nation's capital, where the 10th Senate is marking 1 year of legislative proceeding. There is no executive influence in the running of the affairs of the upper legislative chamber. This is the position the Nigerian Senate, where lawmakers are also planning to expeditiously pass the new National Minimum Wage Amendment Bill if it gets to the National Assembly immediately after the Salah break. The spokesman for the upper legislative chamber, Senator Yemi Adaramodu, made the clarifications while giving the scorecard of the 10th Senate at a media briefing in Abuja. Senator Adaramodu adds that there could be sanctions for states that fail to comply with the amended new minimum wage bill.
I can rate the performance put together, the three aspects, that is lawmaking, oversight functions, and advocacy for the constituencies. I can rate us 9/10.
And as part of efforts to stem the tide in insurgency in the country, the Defense Headquarters has announced the killing of 197 terrorists in addition to the arrest of 3 and 10 others. Addressing a news conference in Abuja, the Director, Defense Media Operations, Major General Edward Buba, says the military will continue to kill terrorists and insurgents as long as they threaten the peace of Nigeria as a nation. General Buba equally announced the arrest of some members of the indigenous people of Biafra and Eastern Security Network responsible for the murder of 5 soldiers at a checkpoint in Abia State.
Our war effort is designed and crafted to not just defeat the terrorists, but to destroy them, as well as dismantle their terror infrastructure, which include their military capability, their administrative capability, as well as their logistic capabilities. Now, following the killing of 5 personnel at the checkpoint in Abia State, troops conducted several intelligence-based operations, and these operations led to the discovery and destruction of several indigenous people of Biafra and their Eastern Security Network cohorts terrorist camps across the southeast region. Now, several arrests were made, and those who were found not to have any connection with the incident were released, while several others, culpable, are still in detention.
And back to our minimum wage developing story. President Bola Tinubu has reacted to the agitations over a new national minimum wage for Nigerian workers, saying it will be based on what the country can afford to pay. He stated this at a dinner organized to celebrate Nigeria's Democracy Day, held at the State House Conference Center, Abuja, where he says the unity of Nigeria cannot be traded. The president also reacted to the incident at the Eagle Square, where he missed his step and slipped, describing it as a fall in honor of democracy.
We're going to do it what Nigeria can afford, what you can afford, what I can afford. They ask you to cut your coat according to your size. If you have size at all, the promises I could make, struggling to bring the food prices down, but those bandits to leave the farmers alone and bring Nigeria back to its glory of production and harvesting.
Away from the minimum wage now, troops of Sector 6 Operation Well Punch have killed the notorious bandit Buhari Alhaji Halidu, popularly known as Buhari Nyadi, during an operation in Giwa local government area of Kaduna State. The infamous terrorist kingpin, who is one of the deadliest bandit leaders terrorizing northern Nigeria in the last decade, was killed by the security forces along with 35 members of his gang. According to a statement by the Kaduna State Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs, Samuel Aruwan, Buhari Yadi and some members of his gang were neutralized during a fierce gun battle with troops of Operation Well Punch around Idasu Forest at the boundaries between Giwa local government of Kaduna State and Sabuwa local government of Katsina State. According to the Kaduna State government, Buhari Yadi and the brigands under his command had been unleashing terror on citizens in Giwa local government area and some parts of Niger and Zamfara states. As a result of the injuries sustained by some of the fleeing bandits, the Kaduna State government has alerted residents of the state not to render assistance to individuals carrying suspicious injuries, but to immediately report such to security agencies. And now to the courts. Justice Liman Mohammed of the Federal High Court Kano has ruled that the court has jurisdiction to hear the case filed by one of the Kano kingmakers, Aminu Baba, and Danagudi, seeking ex parte to restrain the state government from restraining Muhammad Sanusi II as Emir of Kano. After several citations and reliance on the provisions of Section 42, subsection 1 of the 1999 Constitution, Justice Liman rules that the Federal High Court has jurisdiction to hear the case of human rights violation against Aminu Baba and dethroned Emir Aminu Ado Bayero. And to other stories, still from the courts now, the Supreme Court has reserved judgment in the suit of the federal government against the 36 state governors seeking full autonomy for the 774 local governments in the country. Justice Garba Lawal told the parties in the matter that they would be communicated once the judgment is ready. And outside our shores, the United Nations Security Council has voted to support a U.S. resolution backing a ceasefire plan for the war in Gaza. The proposal sets out conditions for a full and complete ceasefire, the release of hostages held by Hamas, the return of dead hostages, remains, and the exchange of Palestinian prisoners. 14 of the 15 Security Council members voted in favor of the U.S. drafted resolution, and Russia abstained. The resolution states that Israel has accepted the ceasefire proposal and urges Hamas to agree to it also. It means the Security Council joins a number of governments, as well as the G7 group of world's richest nations, in backing the three-part plan that was unveiled by President Joe Biden in a televised statement on May the 31st. And in sports, the Nigerian Football Federation has announced its decision to appoint a new technical advisor for the Super Eagles coach, who would be Finidi George's immediate boss, as we're reporting. Finidi George was appointed by the NFF in April, nearly 2 months after the expiration of Jose Peseiro's contract. Recall that Finidi worked as an assistant under Peseiro during his time as Super Eagles coach and was appointed as an interim coach after the Portuguese left. However, Finidi's appointment has not gone as planned. As interim coach, the former Nigerian international led Nigeria to defeat Ghana, but he lost to Mali following his permanent appointment as Super Eagles coach. And that's it for top stories. But what are your thoughts on some of the big stories making headlines? Kade joins me now for a review. Starting from the last one, Kade.
Yeah.
It's not unexpected, right? Particularly after the losses back to back.
Well, so it wasn't a loss with South Africa. It was a draw.
That was considered.
Exactly, a loss. Because some people say it's better to lose so you know where you are than draw. But it's funny how football is. They will celebrate you today, and tomorrow you're either
different story.
out. Jeffrey will say there are two types of managers, or he says they say there are two types of managers: the one about to be sacked and the one who's been sacked already. But that's why, for me, I moved to golf. I'm not with all of that emotional roller coaster with football.
It's safe, right?
It's safer. I mean, you don't see golf fans arguing, stressing themselves who's better, Ronaldo or Messi. You don't get all of those
locking shirts just because my team lost.
Or losing appetite and stuff. So I'm doing golf right now. So all the best to all the football fans out there. But it's important to pay attention to what the NFF is doing. But that's not the only big story today. The minimum wage conversation, Bukola, is quite big. And as you pointed out earlier, President Bola Tinubu says that only a minimum wage that the government can afford is what will be approved. The question is, what is that figure? Can we just know what the figure is and do the calculation?
Well, and a minimum wage that we can afford appears a shift from we will give Nigerian workers a living wage. That's a departure, Mr. President. So what happened in between?
Well, let's see what you're saying. Collins Opara is the first one. Says this approach completely ignores the reality of workers struggling to make ends meet. That's how the user captures it. The focus will be on ensuring a living wage, as you said, Bukola, that reflects the rising cost of living and supports the well-being of Nigerian citizens. This user ends by saying the Tinubu government needs to prioritize the people and not just its budget constraints. Very interesting debate, really, that one.
Yes, indeed. And this next one is from Anslem Ominiyi. And they say, or he says, to eradicate poverty in Nigeria, first, you need to pay your workers well before anything else. True.
Simple and short.
Yeah.
This next user, Sani Naira, I think. Says a senator in Nigeria cannot accept 30,000 naira as his salary, but a teacher is accepting less than 30,000 naira as his salary in a country that 500,000 naira can feed you in 2 months. Or do you say can't?
Can't.
Why not have a National Assembly make a bill to let all legislators' salaries be equal with teachers? I imagine that the legislators will not say no to this one. Or would you?
Well, there's been similar proposals in the past. For instance, the Reverend Father in the East says, the political class should also be earning the minimum wage if that's what they're proposing.
There you go.
Well, let's see how it goes. It's a test of the sensitivity of the leaders that we have, really. This last one on the minimum wage matter is from Michael Lewis, who says, if his government, I'm sure he means if this government can afford 160,000 naira.
Or 160 million
160
naira.
million official cars. 160 million worth official cars for senators. Let them pay minimum wage of 250,000 naira to 300,000 naira.
Well, you can't fault this argument, really. But let's move on to another conversation. We're just on the verge of a major celebration for Muslim faithfuls in Nigeria and cross-border. And we understand that in Kano State, the police have put a stop to Durbar celebrations during Eid al-Kabir due to the ongoing disagreements within the emirate. The case is in court already. We understand that the court has also made a pronouncement that Dubai has jurisdiction. But let's see what people are saying about this Durbar particularly. We start with Northerner Zero. Yeah, Northerner Zero has this to say, that's the best decision. And goes on to say the Durbar should wait till next year and may the court judgment favor the rightful owner of the throne, the user says.
Yeah, and this next one is from Emmanuel Indiokwere, who says, so when will the one and only Emir of Kano finally emerge? Well, we know that the state government has installed one Emir, and that's Emir Sanusi II. We know that the throned Emir is contesting that. Yeah. So that's the status quo as it is, and the case is in court.
So I like that we're putting security as a priority here. But let's shift to another story. And this one has been in the news for quite some time. Looks unending at this point. And it's on the alleged 80 billion naira fraud case against former governor of Kogi State, Yaya Bello. We understand that the court has now shifted his arraignment till June the 27th. Queen B, that's real Queen B, has a first comment on this one. And it's sort of like a letter. It starts by saying, Dear EFCC, it's now clear that Yaya Bello has dared you by consistently refusing to appear in court, even today. There you go. I hope now your men can give him the Yahoo Boys treatment by breaking into his house and forcefully picking him up, maybe in the night, so you can sense the sarcasm, linking it to what people have seen in recent times. And, well, Queen B, you didn't say yours sincerely. I mean, that's how letters usually end, or yours in... Anyway.
Indeed, Kade, this is sarcasm that bites. And how will the EFCC respond to this? Maybe they won't respond at all. But it's an important question.
But the eagle always watches here. So.
So this next one is from Faith God W1, who says, make sure you guys as an anti-corruption body do the right thing by ensuring justice prevails And if he's found guilty, he should be taken to maximum prison, and the general public should be updated periodically. Let it not be swept under the carpet. So there should be no sacred cows, and there shouldn't be selective treatment in the
FCC chair
prosecution of those who are on trial for corruption allegations.
He said he will follow this conclusion. He even put his job on the line.
On the line as well.
Essentially. There you go.
So,
that's
all
for now.
For now.
We'll keep your comments coming in. #CityTV Morning Brief and on WhatsApp.
We'll find time to take all of that. But after this time out, we'll bring you the first leg of our conversation, which would be on the minimum wage. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
All right, let's get to that conversation. It's still in the spirit of the Democracy Day, 25 years of unbroken, or sometimes called uninterrupted, democracy since 1999. It was celebrated on Wednesday across the country and for friends of Nigeria. That's why we're continuing the conversation today. I will be joined in the program by Mr. Daniel Bwala, who is a legal practitioner. Joins us via Zoom. Mr. Bwala, good to see you again.
Good morning. Good to see you.
So let's begin with some basic housekeeping, Mr. Bwala. I know you're quite busy on Twitter, and I saw that one of your tweets, you said, besides celebrating the heroes of democracy who paid with their blood, sweat, and all of that, we also need to name and shame anti-democratic elements. You went on to reel out some of the characteristics of this anti-democratic element, and somehow Mr. Peter Obi's name was found in that particular tweet where he said Peter Obi has absolutely has no history or record of democratic credentials. Maybe I'd like you to speak to it. And some may wonder, what's this obsession with Peter Obi?
Well, good morning, and thank you for having me. I have never had any obsession on Peter Obi because, first of all, Peter Obi is not an issue right now in the government. The president is sitting on the saddle. Even the person who came second was not Peter Obi. What I actually do as a private citizen, having my right, is what we call the right of self-defense. If you are being, like you said, you're also following events on social media, you will see that there are sets of people who believe that this country cannot make progress unless their wishes are forcefully pushed down the throats of the Nigerian people. They are the ones that come on all of social media handles. You know, they gallivant like sheep without shepherd on all social media handles to accuse people, to abuse people, to insult on people. And so as long as you will remain in the social media, then you must exercise your right of self-defense in the same way that in real life, when bullies come to you, you have to stand up to them. That's all I do, first of all. But, you know, during this democratic period, people began to, they come on various platforms to accuse people on their democratic credentials. So I now said, the reason that they keep talking is because the man whom they see as number uno, the man who taught them to take back your country, how to win by bullying, does not have any democratic credential either in his days as a student or after he finished his university, during his work period. Nothing like human rights advocacy, nothing like civil society, nothing like philanthropy, no connection with democracy. And so when you do not suffer, there is no blood, sweat, and tears, you will not know the value of democracy. And that's why some of the people call obedient, not all of them. There are people who believe in Peter Obi, and they are not necessarily obedient people, and I respect them. There are those who are even called obedient, they identify as obedient, but they understand the principles of democracy. I respect that. But a greater number of those who come under that cover as obedient, in my opinion, are actually IPOB and IPOB apologists. They are masquerading themselves as obedient. Otherwise, even if you think Peter Obi is the person that should be the president, if you respect democracy, you know that one of the hallmarks of democracy is one, free speech, meaning that I can differ with you, still respect your opinion. 2, I cannot force my opinion down your throat. 3, in the same way I feel pain about the situation in Nigeria, somebody has the right to say he doesn't feel pain about that. All of these virtues and elements that constitute a free society, they don't have respect for that. The very pastor that gave the platform that made Peter Obi who he is today, Pastor Yemade, who used to organize a yearly event that Peter Obi was speaking for many years, when the man raised an opinion, they tore him down. Traditional leaders talk opinion, they tore them down. Religious leaders, they tear them down. The fathers of faith, they tear them down. Fathers in the government, there is virtually nobody that survived their vitriol and they are vulgar as long as the person does not join them in saying Peter Obi is the president of Nigeria. But Peter Obi, everybody knows, is the president of social media, but not necessarily the president of Nigeria.
Well, this now may be termed as you trying to curb their own freedom of expression as well, because for a lot of them, they're not happy. As I imagine you're not with the situation of things in Nigeria, and talking economy, security, standard of living, and the rest. So do you agree with them? So maybe we can take the layers. Do you agree with them in their what appears to be their call for good governance, better living conditions for Nigerians, better security? Do you agree on that basis at least? Are you happy with the current situation of things? Before we can now look at the other layers, but at the heart of it, do you agree?
That's the problem. The problem is that, do they even agree? They don't agree. What they do on social media is throwing insult at people. Because, for example, even the president of Nigeria, who is sitting on the saddle, does not agree with the situation of the country. That's why he works day and night, and he keeps communicating with the Nigerian people on his plans. There is nobody in all political party that is comfortable with what's happening in Nigeria. So the fact that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is in the saddle does not mean APC people are out. Don't we go to the same market? Don't we enter the same transportation system? Don't we pay the same power bills? Nobody is happy. But what distinguishes a democratic society is that you express that your unhappiness in a consistent manner with democratic principles. Meaning that in the same way you feel sad or you are not happy about Nigeria, you respect the right of somebody who does not join you. I give you an example of their problem. So on social media, the president delivered a flawless independence speech. They don't want anybody to give any opinion other than what they hold, that Nigeria is dead and dying. So if you say this was a flawless speech, the president identified the issues, the president applied the situation of Nigeria to the issue, the president cited the fact that even himself is not happy, and the president promised the Nigerian people there is a future, they come to your page and abuse you. So that is where the free speech of another person is being denied. But we, no matter what they express on social media as their unhappiness, we don't go about fighting them. Nobody fights them. It is them who will say, you must say what they say, you must think what they think, otherwise you are not you are not doing the right thing. And funny part, when I was with Atiku Abubakar during the campaign, we commissioned this data, the analytics, and they ran the poll, and we discovered that 57.3% of those who post themselves as obedient, they don't live in Nigeria. And so when you are not there in the trenches and nothing that is happening there affects you, you have the luxury of setting the country on fire. You will have what the military officer was talking about, Simon Ekpa. And this is generally what happens with people who are not in the trenches along with every other person. So when you have the greater number of people who advocate for him, don't even live in Nigeria to look at the realities. They don't mind that you pour fuel and burn the country. But any society, it has been, a research was done, and they said that all over the world, American society now has been at its all-time low and very, very unpleased society. Well, because
Mr. Bola,
they said the government of America, the government of America have not been able to deliver on the people.
Right.
Do you see the American people on social media doing what these people call themselves obedient are doing in Nigeria?
To another point you made, I mean, this is not the purpose of this conversation. It's just what has been happening of late, and you trended quite a lot. And I'd like you to speak to this quickly. Is there any proof to back your assertion that a good number, majority of obedience belong to IPOB or IPOB members? Because that is a major allegation. I know a lot of them will not take this sitting down. What is your proof, Mr. Bola?
No, see, this is not about proofs. This is about opinion. Opinion does not necessarily have to be proven. I said, in my opinion, first of all, I laid the background by telling you that there are a good number of people who support Peter Obi, and I respect them. They are very, very intellectual, educated. They are very good people. Some of them are religious. Then there are some who also even identify as obedient. They are also very respectful and respectable, and they do their things in accordance with the law. Then I say the greater number, I hold the opinion that they are IPOB or IPOB apologists masquerading as obedience. I mean, my language is very clear and unambiguous. If I say there was a data, then I have to give you a proof. If I say there is a finding, I have to give you a proof. But if it's an opinion, it doesn't have to be backed up by proof. And my opinion is anchored on what I see on social media. I don't believe an educated person who understands the rule of law will come to the social media and be cursing your father and mother, threatening your life. These guys on social media and doing the cyberbullying are actually threatening the lives of people. This is not a joke. And I can't think of anybody who will threaten the life of people simply because you are not joining them. It's not that you are not saying what they are saying. Meanwhile, on the other hand, we who say what we feel or we think is right for us to say, don't even abuse, don't do anything to them. So when it's, check the Terrorism and Financing, Terrorism Act in Nigeria. What is terrorism? Terrorism is a coordinated attempt by a group of people to bring fear to another set of people of impending danger if their wishes are not carried out. So if we are really applying this Terrorism Prevention Act and bringing it with cybercrime, a lot of them would have been jailed, but how can you even get them? They don't think the country, most of them.
So thank you, Mr. Bwala, for providing clarification, but just to also put things in proper context, it would be apt to also remind you that not too long ago, ahead of the elections, you had also tweeted what would seem to be, confidence building in the popularity of the presidential candidate of the Labour Party. And let me just read that tweet for you. You said they kept saying that Peter Obi would steal official PDP Nigeria votes until they saw the obedient Lagos rally when they realized Peter Obi is on a mission to plunder Emiloko's Southwest votes. Obi's voters are all over the Southwest, cities, towns, and villages. And you ended by saying, ha, ha, ha. So one would wonder what happened in between that time and now, particularly after that very popular visit that you made to the State House. But since we're talking about the civic space, Mr. Bwala, let's talk to us about what you adjudge to be your assessment of the expression of civil liberties, rights and freedoms, particularly under this administration, which anyway, by the way, criticisms have said that about 8 journalists are in detention under this government.
You see, there is this thing called context provision. You did not provide the context for what you read. You should have said on so day. That's the only way those who
no, but I did, Mr. Bwala.
Context.
I did. I said ahead of the elections. I did. But go ahead with your answer.
No. If you check the Twitter, you see dates. Can you call out the dates?
Go ahead, Mr. Bwala.
Actually.
Go ahead.
So then it's misleading. It's misleading.
It's not misleading. I said ahead of the elections, the presidential elections. What's the big deal about calling the date?
Go
ahead, Mr. Bwala.
You see, this time that we have done back and forth, you would have said on so day, and it's not the issue. So date, it's important in context. But going forward, in talking about the rule of law, we have made giant progress. And let me tell you this. After President Bola Ahmed Tinubu took office in May of last year, a lot of people thought that because the campaigns were so charged, whether ethnically, racially, in all aspects, and you know how hot the campaigns were. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was called all sorts of names, right, in the campaign and in the build-up and in the process. So a lot of people thought that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu immediately becomes president, he would start witch hunting the people. There is no evidence President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has gone to do that. Rather, he continues to respect the right of people. In fact, what he's doing, rather than fighting you, he devises ways to get people to be on board. And this is what democracy is all about. Now, regarding those who are in detention, the reference to the people in detention was not given a context. Some of them were in detention before President Bola Ahmed Tinubu became president. And now linking it up to him is as if you're saying he detained them. Then there are those who are detained probably during the time that he is the president of Nigeria. It's good, like I talk about context provision, to say when this person is in detention is for what? Now, if the person is detained because he expressed his free speech, all of us have agreed that that is not consistent with democratic ideals. If the person is in detention because he commits a crime, or there's an allegation of commission of a crime which is yet to be proven, then that is the due process of law. And all you need to do is that those who advocate for human rights can bring it to light if there is a manipulation by state, craft to make sure that these people are silenced. So context is also very important when you talk about people who are in detention. But in terms of freedom of speech, I think that the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu respects free speech, respects opinions that are divergent against the views of the federal government. And this is what democracy is. I do not see President Bola Ahmed Tinubu ever walking back from the ideals he fought for, the ideals all of his life. He fought for, and then now he will start.
But Mr. Bwala, even if some of those journalists were detained under the former administration, don't you think it would be hard to make a distinction because it would be the same character of the same APC government?
Yeah, but I don't know those journalists. You have not mentioned their names and their circumstances. So I am only making my own opinion based on abstract perception as to their detention. And that's why I gave you the point that if a journalist is detained because he is exposing evils in the society, I, Daniel Bwala, condemn the detention of that journalist. And I believe that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu equally condemns that. But President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, for example, is not the DPO of police or the head of the prison. Request was made on his democracy dinner that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu should see to it. I want to guarantee you, and you can quote me what I said this morning, in the coming days, you will see the president intervening in this area. The president is not omniscience to know everything. It is when they are brought to light, like the way you are bringing the issue in the public domain, that then we begin to act on it. So free speech, freedom of expression, freedom to hold opinion or to dissenting view against the government, all of them are protected by law. And as long as they are consistent with the law, there is no way the society can grow if the government try to constrict the freedom of speech of individual people. But you know that expression of freedom is also qualified in the law, and that's why we have to bring those contexts.
All right.
While you have a right to express yourself, you also have to express it within the context of law. If in expressing yourself you make a treasonable offense, certainly the law will have its course. That's all I'm trying to say.
All right, Mr. Bwala, I'm going to give you a job that I know you are capable of handling, which is looking back at 25 years. The premise for this conversation, essentially democratic institutions like INEC and the National Assembly and all of that. There is a statement released by Yaga I want to just speak from. They said the trust in government and institution have declined in the last 25 years, and they are calling for what they consider a new social contract. I want to get your view on the perception of institutions and what you think we need to do, because we now need to look forward ahead of the future.
I agree with the report of Yaga, because of course if you're in Nigeria, you would have noticed that over a period of years, there is a distrust, towards the government by the people. And that's because the government is expected to deliver on the mandate. And since 1999, when we departed from the military, there is this belief that this democracy will yield prosperity to the people. And we have not made the progress that is required from 1999 till date. Unfortunately, like me, I have always been an advocate of the fact that under a true federalism, greater focus should be placed on the governors, the chief executive officers of the federating units. If you look at, for example, even the conversation around the minimum wage, all this leapfrogging of the government is because the government wants to carry the state along. Imagine states are saying even 30,000 they can't pay. And if the government wants to grandstand and mentions a figure that is the disparity is quite much, the governors will think that the federal government is fighting them. Yet under a federalism, the president cannot force them. You can only continue to speak with them. If our own democracy permits the president to use the resources in the way he wants, all of this increased allocation to the state could have been directly, channeled towards increase of worker salary and all of that. Democracy is weak. Democracy is very slow. That's why in societies where you see some of this rapid growth, they are not democratic societies. So if we're in democracy, we have to acknowledge the weaknesses of democracy and push it. So there is a loss of confidence over time at all levels, federal government, state level, and local government level, even on the institutions. Because when institutions are not functioning to the aspiration of the masses, all of that will affect the public confidence in government. That is the reason why President Bola Ahmed Tinubu now ran on this idea of renewed hope, that he's hoping to renew the hope of the Nigerian people in the project of Nigeria, to renew the trust. So our own commitment and allegiance will be to the flag and to the republic. And we will have pride looking at green, white, green, or when we fly with our passport, we will have the pride that when we call our government officials to say, these people represent us. And they have begun to lay the foundation. Because for the past 25 years, for example, before this reform, how have we been living? We have been living like a man who has not accessed his source of income, but is living large. Because virtually every facet of life was subsidized. And the subsidy is also good, assuming it's a country of manufacturers, because subsidy is also part of government to increase the capacities of the general masses. But all of these things are fake. So, and there is no reform. If you carry Donald Trump, which is anybody you bring to Nigeria, given the situation of Nigeria, that can bring this type of change 24 hours. I'm telling you, this is a journey we will continue pushing until we get to where we're supposed to. So how do we instill the confidence in the institution? One, by the federal government ensuring that there is independence of the institution, because the whole concept of democracy is rule of law, independence of the institution, and all of these, elements to bring them together. So, for example, the police. How do we strengthen the institution of the police? Apart from the administrative side that has to do with their payment and whatever, in terms of their interrelationship with the general public, the police should be able to be the people's police. Police are people's police. So, and it's a conversation that will continue to go. The president recently took a decision, along the line of Police Service Commission. These are reform processes. When you talk of in the courts, for example, the court must begin to give consistent orders. It is very ugly that you are getting from the same court of coordinate jurisdiction conflicting orders left, right, and center every day. And recently, the National Judicial Council, with the Chief Justice of Nigeria, summoned the judge in the head of courts across Nigeria to look into it. So we are working towards a perfect union.
Right. Just as we wind down, to put the earlier conversation in context, in the past 1 year of President Bola Tinubu-led administration, the press attacker tracker has verified and documented 37 cases of press freedom violations, and this is scattered across the country, from arrests to harassments and detentions. I mean, you might remember Daniel Ojukwu was detained for about 10 days of late. We've had another, at least 2 after that. So these are documented facts, Mr. Bola, just to put it out there. But, Jeffrey?
All right, Mr. Daniel Bola, we always thank you for coming through and providing insights on these issues. Thank you so much. Mr. Daniel Bola is a legal practitioner, and I like to call him an independent, as he likes to call himself.
You said the APC people earlier on, so maybe he's inching towards it.
No, we're waiting for him. So for now, we'll respect what you say you are, an independent.
I am an independent, but my persecutor is the lady in the studio.
Oh, really, Mr. Bola?
We're your friends.
We're your friends.
Mr. Bola, thank you so much for coming on the program. And of course, we'll take a quick break now. When we come back, we'll switch gears to another conversation. Join us again.
I understand the economic difficulties we face as a nation right now. Our economy has been in desperate need of reform for decades. It has been unbalanced because it was built on the flawed foundations and over reliance on revenue from exploitation of oil. The reforms we have initiated are intended to create a stronger, better foundation for future growth. There is no doubt that the reform has occasioned hardship. I feel your pains. Yet, there are necessary repairs required to fix the economy over the long run so that everyone has access to economic opportunity, fair pay, and compensation for its endeavor and labor. As we continue to reform the economy, I shall always listen to the people and will never turn my back on you. in this spirit, we have negotiated in good faith and with open arms with organized labor on a new national minimum wage. We shall soon send our executive bill to the National Assembly to enshrine what has been agreed upon as part of our law for the next 5 years or less.
Well, Comrade Festus Osifo joined us on the show this morning. He's the president of a trade union congress. Good morning, comrade, not Congress. Welcome to the morning brief. I'm trying to get into the conversation quickly because this is a matter of national urgency and importance. But I know you've been attending the ILO conference in Geneva. Perhaps we can talk about that much later, how our situation in Nigeria ties with the global situation. But speak to what the president said to enshrine what has been agreed upon. I know the NLC says there's been no agreement. Two-edged question, Mr. Osifo. First, were you disappointed that the president did not make a minimum wage pronouncement in that Democracy Day speech? And how did you, that's the TUC, received that agreed upon statement?
Yeah, good morning, Kayode, Bukola, and Jeffrey. Good morning, Nigerians. Yes, so when we heard what the president said about the minimum wage, that what has been agreed is going to be forwarded to the National Assembly. So, you know, again, words are meaning of words are actually the way you see them or the way you could interpret them. So, because for us, the last meeting we had on this minimum wage was held last week, Friday. So, on that meeting, we agreed on that meeting that two numbers are going to be forwarded to Mr. President. That is the 62,000 naira as well as the 250,000 naira. So that was what the tripartite committee meeting agreed upon. So probably that has got to the table of Mr. President. So what the president will now forward now depends on a lot of factors, the consultation and all that he will now do. So for us in Trade Union Congress of Nigeria, our understanding of that is, first, there is no common figure that was agreed upon. There is no common figure. Then secondly, you have two figures that the committee agreed to be forwarded to Mr. President. And a report on that was written, and we signed off that report. So all parties, organized private sector, the government, and the organized labor signed off that document. That document was sort of an agreement, but that agreement is not on a particular figure, but on two sets of figures that will be forwarded to Mr. President. So again, it's a matter of semantics. If the president is saying that we've agreed on one figure, the answer is a no. But if the sets of figures that we agreed on, probably the president will now look at it and make further consultations and now forward the figure to National Assembly. So he is at best, or his handlers are best to explain what that means. But clearly what happened at the committee level was that we agreed to send two figures to Mr. President, and I think that was done.
All right, Mr. Osifo, in mathematics, there's something we call being bounded upward and downward. Yours is in the higher cadre, and the federal government is somewhere around 62,000. It's difficult not to believe that the federal government may not go on that is bounded downward. So my question would be, scenario planning for labor, given that the president has said something has reached him, whether you agree with him or not, that he will send it to the National Assembly, and he goes with a lower number. What will labor do?
I know. In labor, yes, we do scenario planning. You are very correct. I mean, we do those things behind the scene, but we don't also want to second guess. And we don't also want to preempt what the president is going to do. As we speak today, yes, a lot of us are out in ILO, the International Labour Conference, but we have a chunk of our membership back home. So we are doing all the reach out as well. We are also trying, we are not sleeping beyond the work that the tripartite committee has done. We are also trying to justify and make the case why the president should tilt towards the upper band. So that we are currently doing at the moment. You know, let's assume, for example, if, for example, the president decides to say, okay, I'm sending 200,000 naira to the National Assembly. the organized labor will also take it before the National Assembly and also push them to do much more. So our work will not end until until the Minimum Wage Act 2024 is passed into law. So we will continuously push, we will continuously advocate for what we think is right. Yeah, but for what labor will do, I think it's a bit premature for us to go into that now. But all we are doing now is to mount advocacy, to mount pressure, and to let them understand the need to tilt towards the upper band because of the challenges that an average Nigerian worker is facing today. So that is exactly what we have been doing since last week Friday.
You know, Mr. Sifo, Jeffrey's question is instructive such that it will help us understand how long this process will go on for and the implications that are contained therein, whether if government proposes something below 62 or just a piecemeal addition, as has been characteristic so far, whether we're still going to be dealing with another nationwide strike. But as we move forward in the conversation, the challenge that has been explained about why the subnationals cannot afford it is because of the consequential adjustment, you know, for all other cadres of workers. And as a result, there's a proposition by the Senior Advocate of Nigeria that shouldn't be a problem, that general salary increases can be done at different times apart from the periods of negotiation of minimum wage. And I'm curious to know whether you agree with this proposition such that the minimum wage would not elicit so much disagreement across board, particularly across the states of the Federation, and it can be a decent wage for the generality of workers on that cadre. Do you agree, Mr. Sifo?
Yes, thank you, Bukola. So the way minimum wage works, which I think most Nigerians are a bit conversant with today, is first of all, you know, when you move the minimum, for example, let's assume today that the minimum is 250,000 naira. So if you move that minimum is going to be applied to somebody on grade level 1, step 1. So once you do that, the next person who is going to be grade level 1, step 2, or that will be grade level 2, step 1, you have to do that adjustment. So consequential adjustment is actually inevitable. Otherwise, if you move the one downward, okay, let's assume that you have somebody today that is earning 100,000 naira. So if the minimum, and that person is, let's say, a grade 7 officer earning 100,000 naira based on the old minimum wage of 30,000 naira. So if you now move the minimum wage to 250,000 naira, what are you going to do? You have to now readjust that step from grade level 1 to grade level 17. So that consequential adjustment is actually inevitable. You have to do it so that those at the lower run of the cadre will not earn much more than those at the upper end. That's one. Then secondly as well, to the other question about the subnationals, talking about affordability. It will interest you to note, Bukola, that we, from the part of labor, we've also tried to gather some data. You will see that some of the states that are not paying the current 30,000, I think there are about 5 of them, according to a subcommittee that the tripartite committee set up, led by the Minister of Finance. They worked with with MBS to come up with those states that are not currently paying minimum wage. So 5 states were identified. If you look at those 5 states, the fact that they are not paying 30,000 minimum wage, it does not necessarily mean that they don't have the means to pay. Because when we check those states and we check the economic activities in those states and we check their IGRO vis-a-vis their allocation from the federal account and also with the number of workforce they have in such states, we realize that they are not worse off in any way. So it wasn't really the ability to pay. It was more or less the willingness to pay. So it's more about the will rather than the ability. And that is what we have contended with. Because we have had some states that a particular state governor will tell you that he cannot pay minimum wage. But immediately he hands over, you'll be surprised that the successor in office will even increase what the minimum wage would be. So we've had such cases, abound. So for us, it is about the willingness and not the ability to pay.
Can you outline those states for us? Can you enumerate them, those 5 states?
Yes. Okay. From the survey that was done by MBS, championed by a subcommittee that was set up as led by the Minister of Finance. So the Minister of Finance read the report when they concluded their activities, and I think top on that state was Anambra State. Then the next on that state, from that state was Ebonyi State. The next was Kogi, and I think we also have Zamfara. But immediately that report came out, Zamfara agreed that immediately they will start paying minimum wage. But we still have Ebonyi, Kogi, and Anambra. Although Anambra since came out and said no, that they were paying minimum wage. That minimum wage is not just about salary, that is salary plus allowances. So that was the position of Professor Chukwuma Soludo, the governor of Anambra. But however, that report talked about these 5 states that are not paying minimum wage.
Right. So you talked about consequential adjustment, which is where the rubber meets the road yet again. For a lot of people, they just thought, okay, do this for the lowest earners, the minimum wage earners. But if this will be, if you will cascade this across board, then I need to also understand what the thinking is for the private sector. The private sector, they say they employ way more than government, obviously. In fact, it's been said that global statistics says about maybe 8 in 10 of employees are employed by the private sector. Now, if we say you are doing this for civil servants, I'm not sure what the population of civil servants in Nigeria is, according to latest figure. Well, last time I checked, 720,000 for federal. Let's say Lagos, the last figure I saw was plus 100,000. So plus or minus 5 million civil servants for federal and states. So that leaves way more for the private sector. So what is it thinking? Are you looking at maybe consequential adjustment too for private sector? How will they be able to pay? Because a lot of people watching right now are not being employed by government, they're private. So what should they expect, Mr. Osifo?
Thank you so much, Kayode. In all my career, I've worked in private sector from when I left university till date. So I've worked in private sector. So if you also need to deconstruct what private sector is. So there are private sectors that are well organized. There are private sectors that have union. When we discuss minimum wage today, for example, how would that apply to those working in oil and gas? How would that apply to those working in food and beverages? How would that apply to those working in construction? Because in the private sector, they have what we call collective bargaining agreement in most of them, except maybe the nano sectors. But for most of the small, medium, and big enterprise, they have.
All right.
Well, we'll reconnect with Comrade Osifo subsequently, but quite an important point he's making, guys, because I think that's where the question has been. But he's trying to make a distinction between different angles of private sector. It's also important to get a sense of what is happening right now, because we understand that the 1 week relaxation of that strike elapsed on Tuesday. So what are we in a grace period? What exactly is happening during this time? Are they aware if the president has been able to transmit that bill to the National Assembly? Does it contain the 2 figures, or there is now a figure that the president has decided upon? So we hope to get some of these answers from Mr. Osifo when we reconnect with him. It's a big conversation, guys, this minimum wage.
I know that the labor union had released a statement. Joe Ajero had released a statement while he was at I think they're still in Geneva for the ILO. It said that there's not going to be strike, at least for now, pending what the nod the president will give to the proposals before him. So nobody's going to take any action. So as he said, they are just around making sure that they put their house in order, continue to persuade, as Mr. Sifa said. What they're trying to do as well is to see whatever the president sends, they will persuade the National Assembly maybe to do better. We don't know what the president is going to send, which is what the disagreement was actually all about, that the president sent a proposal and said they have reached an agreement. I think they were not comfortable with that word reach, because they said there are 2 agreements in front of you. So where did we reach where, and what was the agreement? So, but the president has a right and exclusive preserve in consultation with everybody on board to decide on what it should be based on reality of the parts of the country as well as economic realities as well. But remember as well that, guys, that the government is already in arrears by a month.
Exactly.
The government is already in arrears by a month, because I know that May 1st they said that they're going to start paying from May.
Yeah.
And it's sad to see that there are some states that can't even pay 30. That's why the governors were screaming that the 60,000 you're talking about, we're not even in for it. But somebody has argued that if you look at, and the only way to track this, so I understand we have Mr. Osifo back. Mr. Osifo, maybe you land on your thoughts.
Yes. So like as I have said, in most private organizations, you have trade unions. For example, in oil and gas, for example, you have Pengasan, who is an affiliate of TUC. You have Nupeng, that is an affiliate of NLC. You have in construction, you have in food and beverage, you have in electricity, just like that. So in every now and then, so there are collective bargaining agreements that are being debated. And when you debate those collective bargaining agreements, what you normally do is that you look at the economic situations and you look at how to adjust majorly for inflation. So most of the private sectors, I can tell you that they have actually left where we are today. Those are maybe the small, the medium, and the large enterprises. But for the nano, that is where some of the challenges are. And they've also made their case within that tripartite committee as well, that they will not also be able to afford the 250,000 naira. So those were some of the conversations we've had. But for the other private sectors, there is CBA negotiations in some cases on a yearly basis, in some other cases on a 2-yearly basis. The reason for CBA negotiation is actually to ensure that the value of what you earn today, the value of what you pay to your employees today, that over the period, that value is reinstated so that the inflation will not continuously erode what the value of your earnings are. So, but that is basically on what happened in the private sector.
All right, Mr. Osifo, the president has said that they will pay what they can afford, and they're already in arrears. So my question would be, is Labour willing to come down beyond 250,000 if push comes to shove?
What we have always said, I was in your show about a month ago or thereabout, and then we were saying 490-something thousand. What we said was that for us, when we give figures, there is always a room to meander. There's always a room for us to do some adjustments here and there. So there is no figure that is sacrosanct. There is no figure that is cast in stone that both parties will be fixated on it. One of the reasons we went on an industrial action the last time was because when they got to 60,000, they told us that the cover cannot even join the 60,000, that they cannot even add 1 naira to it. So that was one of the reasons that led to that industrial action, beyond the fact that there were also delays. Because if not for that action, I'm not sure that the National Assembly that said what they said yesterday, that they are ready and prepared to pass the minimum wage immediately after Salah, because we saw some conspiracy of delays here and there. But now there is a national call to duty and a national awakening on why the new minimum wage must be put in place. So we are not fixated 100%. But beyond the minimum wage conversation, some other conversations that we have also had in the tripartite committee, for us in Labour, we do everything possible to ensure that even the private sectors, even the manufacturing companies that are exiting the country today, what is government doing to ensure that they stay? You just heard that Guinness has said that they are exiting. We heard that Kimberly Clark also said that they are exiting. What we told them was that some of these decisions to exit, they don't take them today. We have had the inkling over a year ago that Guinness was planning to exit Nigeria. What we told them was that what has the Minister of Trade and Investment been doing over this period? You go to them, you sit with them, meet with their board. What are the issues? What are the challenges? Why do you want to exit? What can we do differently for you to stay? That is the function of government. And that is what we have also championed in the committee meetings that we have had. We have also told them that some of the policies is also driving away the investment. That government must do everything possible to support business. Because we understand that if business survives, that is when they will be able to cater for employees. We understand that very well. And we also advocate and we also push for that as well. Then again, we also look at the value of money. How can you stop this erosion in the value of Naira? And how can we show the value of Naira so that it is not about the volume? The reason we are fixated on volume today is because the value has actually eroded. But if the value was still okay, if 30,000 Naira could buy what it used to buy in 2019 today, we will not be pushing and crying to say you have to up the minimum wage. But it is because of the fact that the value has eroded. So all we are saying is that even if we agree today, 250,000 naira.
All right, Mr. Osifo.
Proper policies, both monetary and
those points.
Okay.
Those points have been advocated in the past time and again. Very quickly, Nigerians also seek to know what the position of Labour is as far as the increase in electricity tariff is concerned. It was one of the conditions that you gave government during the nationwide strike that you called some weeks back. But it seems as if Labour has now toned down on that insistence on the decrease in electricity tariff. Perhaps you would like to explain to us why that is, and if it is still on the table as one of your bargaining chips.
Yes, thank you, Bukola, for bringing that again to the front burner. Actually, we added that to our shopping list when we are pushing for the minimum wage issue. If you remember, a day before the strike, we had on June 2nd, there was a meeting with the leadership of the National Assembly, led by the Senate President and the Speaker of the House of Reps, and their entire principal officers. They were in that conversation. So during that meeting, the Senate President gave us some level of assurance that for them, that they have asked the NEC to do a reversal, and that there's going to be there is some actions that they are taking to ensure that that happens. So when the Senate President told us that, we said, okay, we will not, we are here to watch what is actually going to happen. So we gave them some level of benefit of doubt to watch for a while and see the intervention of the Senate. So we are watching that intervention. When that intervention falls short, we will bring it up again to the national burner, because they told us clearly that they are in sync with us, that they are on the same page with us, and that they think that astronomical hike, that astronomical increment in the price of electricity for the so-called band A, that most of the companies that they operate within band A. So what you will now do is that when you increase that cost of electricity, you will indirectly transfer it to the consumer, who are most especially the downtrodden Nigerians. So with that intervention, we decide to subpedal a bit on that and watch the actions of Senate. But we will tarry for a while. When we don't see the required results, we would also start championing it.
Well, Mr. Osifo, clearly this is not the end of the conversation. The part about laying off to ensure that wage increase will not lead to layoff. If you're aware, by the way, if the bill has been sent to the National Assembly, is that a yes or no? Has it been sent?
No, we are not aware that it has been sent.
It hasn't been sent just yet. But clearly the comment...
Right. I want to make a comment on the layoff.
Okay, we have to anchor now, Comrade Osifo. So here's what we'll do. We're going to continue this conversation, hopefully on Monday. So let's just pen you down already. Obviously, there will be more things to talk about then, but we really have to anchor right now. We just wanted to get an update. We understand that you're also busy, so let's allow you continue with your day. We've been speaking
Thank you so much. Thank you so much,
Festus Osifo. And you referenced what happened to Diageo. Some have said it's just selling their stakes, changing business model. Tolerant coming in, but they still have that business here in Nigeria. But Comrade Festus Osifo, would like to thank you so much and wish you the very best.
Thank you so much, Kayode. Thank you, Bukola and Jeffrey.
We'll take a moment now, and when we return our attention to a very important part of the conversation. It concerns inclusion. So stay with us.
Welcome back to the program. And so we turn our attention now to albinism, a genetically inherited condition that causes low pigmentation in the skin. And you have, them in our environment. They are our neighbors, as we told you earlier on. They are our friends. They are even our family members. So what are we doing to ensure that they're protected from light rays and also from the darkness of stigmatization and the other dangers within the society? So joining us to have this conversation this morning is Mr. Jake Epele. Mr. Jake Epele, good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning, Bukola. Good morning, Kayode and Jeffrey. Thank you for introducing this wonderful program. I can only describe Morning Brief as a program that has one foot in Old Testament and another in the New Testament.
That's a new one. We'll take that.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Pele. So for the 2024 World Albinism Day, it's interesting to note that the theme is on the progress made so far. So my question is, what are those high points, the progress that we've achieved, and how significantly have they affected people with albinism living in these parts? When I say in these parts, in Nigeria, and particularly the African continent.
Thank you, Bukola. That's a multi-dimensional question, but let me take them one after the other. What progress have we made? We've made progress in advocacy, getting to the critical stakeholders to listen to us and do something about the ideologies that we're trying to sell. We've made progress in policy and legislation. We've had, in Nigeria, the first national policy on albinism in the world. We've made progress in access to health. We've had free skin cancer treatment, which this country started, which I'm calling on the current president to reinstate. We've made progress in access to quality education, which I was part of the team that wrote the first inclusive education policy for Nigeria. We've made progress in media advocacy, media inclusion. I mean, 20 years ago, you couldn't have had a person with albinism on television, speaking to the glory of God confidently. And so we have made progress in seeing the lives of persons with albinism transformed. My organization, to the glory of God, was able to send a person with albinism to Aberdeen University, and she came back with a master's degree. She's gone back to do a second master's degree. 250 children were sent to school at the time. We were doing counterpart payment for school fees. We made progress in the political space. As you know, it's on record, provided evidence by data, that persons with albinism has the highest registration in INEC portal on political participation, and that speaks to the program that we're doing on governance. We've made progress in getting friends like Kayode and yourself and Jeffrey and John Momo, the chairman of Channel, to become serious-minded advocates for not only persons with albinism, but persons with disability. We have made progress in global attention. That's why we have a day like this yesterday to create awareness for challenges and successes of albinism cause globally. We have been able to get global attention, and that to me is a huge progress.
All right, Mr. Pele, as we binge through some of the highlights and the concerns of the day, let's look at health. The data shows that persons between 30 to 40 years are susceptible to skin cancer when it comes to people with albinism, and it leads to some level of fatality. I wonder what is being made in terms of policy direction to help reduce that number, especially within the sub-region, looking at Nigeria as a case study from your point of view.
Look, Jeffrey, it's not, it's almost sounding like a health myth that it's only a certain category of people that can have skin cancer. Skin cancer is open to everybody with albinism, whether it's a baby or a grown-up adult. I am a skin cancer survivor. I got skin cancer when I was about 53 or 4. So it is open to everybody. Skin cancer is a result of consistent exposure to sun and even fluorescent light over a period of time. And then it starts creating lesions, which is as a result of a damaged skin that becomes cancerous. It is ravaging Nigerians. Many Nigerians are dying of skin cancer. Many Africans are dying of skin cancer. Bukola did mention about what, for instance, my organization is doing in Africa. I was one of those who went to Tanzania. I took a risk. I've gone to Tanzania 3 times. The third time I was able to speak with the government, and South Africa, Kenya, Malawi, Egypt, Morocco, Congo, Brazzaville. We've been everywhere advocating for the region, West African region, Benin Republic, Ghana, Senegal. We have been everywhere, Gambia. Not only advocating for for access to quality health, but human rights, because persons with albinism were being killed and murdered with the impression that they have the magic wand to make money or to give political power. Now, it happened in a very large scale in places like Tanzania, but the superstition or myth is that it doesn't happen in Nigeria. It did. It was there. It happened in Delta. It happened in Makurdi. It happened in Calabar. And there were also issues around that particular issue in Lagos. So it's also in Nigeria. The only thing is that the level of awareness that we have brought to the issue in Nigeria is very high. And like I said, it's captured in our national policy, which is exactly 11 years old. We have reviewed the national policy, and that national policy is being used in other African countries and in the UN system.
Well, Mr. Pele, you seem to have achieved like a godfather status in these sectors. And it just shows what is possible when you go for things, when you're driven by a purpose. And it's good to see you on this platform speaking with you to shed light on these issues. So I want to talk about how to move forward now. And I'd like to know what your game plan is, because these challenges have been there for decades. So I know that you've called, for example, for the appointment of a person living with disability as a minister. Just a few days ago, that call has come up again. Now you're more specific, it would seem. Humanitarian Affairs Minister. I think that is now the call that I saw a few days ago from that group. So how are you looking to approach this? Because they say once you have a seat on the table, then it's easier to at least help people see your side of the story, see things from your side. So is that an approach you are hoping to at least see come through so that you can further push these policies and changes that you want?
Thank you, Kayode, for your always intelligent question. Let me say that we launched Able to Serve, which is a leadership project that mirrors the character and competencies of persons with disability, making them qualified to lead. And yes, I will add my voice to asking the president to give opportunity to the most qualified persons with a disability to lead, not only Ministry of Humanitarian, we can lead in finance, we can lead in education, we can lead in technology. Anyone that is qualified, that is a person with disability, that have the interest of the community, young, vibrant, intelligent, and able to occupy the office and get us the expected result. People like us are not looking for that position, and I want to categorically say it because I am getting old at 63, so I know that there are some people in Bola Tinubu's government, including himself, who is older than me, but I want to give the young people a chance to lead. They are smart, they have what it takes, they have age on their side, and they are very innovative in thinking. And I'm not saying the older ones are not, but let's give the younger ones the opportunity to serve if they have the integrity, character, and competence to serve and to deliver expected results. Yes, I will continue to push to see that persons with disability are given the opportunity not just to occupy position, but to serve purpose. And I want to say that all of these achievements couldn't have been possible, Kayode. It couldn't have been possible without the contribution of organizations like yours. You know, every time I come on this channel and remember John Momo and how individual like that treats people like us, I am so blown away and sometimes moved to tears. But all of you have been a great family, and this day couldn't have been what it is. The achievement couldn't have been what it is. The successes and the challenges couldn't have been what it is without your contribution. I am what I am today because I have great relationships like all of you and your channel.
Thank you, Mr. Epele, for always being so profuse in your compliments, and we appreciate you as well. You've talked about the highlights of the success of policy and support for people with albinism, but what about social support? Is there any progress in that regard, particularly with some of the myths and cultural beliefs associated with people living with albinism? And are there nucleuses of conversations, groups that help to change some of those myths and help further the integration of people with albinism into the society?
Thank you, Bukola. There's a whole lot that has happened. There's a whole lot myth that we have been working hard day and night to debunk. I'll give you one of the things we did as an organization. We published 50 myths that are blatant lies, and we published it in English, Hausa, Yoruba, and Igbo, and distributed it across the length and breadth of this country. There is no doubt, Bukola, that these myths are abysmal lies. I'll tell you some of the myths. Oh, a person with albinism cannot eat edible salt. That's a myth, and it's a blatant lie. And anyone listening to me, if you deny your child, or you are a person with albinism, you deny yourself taking edible salt, you will be deficient. There are myths like, albinism is contagious. Albinism is not contagious. I remember a story that for the past about 13 years of the 67 years of my life, I still remember that. I was just about 13 when I had that experience. I went to an uncle's house, and my uncle's wife was pregnant. And because she was pregnant, they would not allow me to come into the house. And I cried and I asked why. They said, I don't want to give birth to a person with albinism. I mean, this is what we see every day of our lives. This is what we experience every day of our lives. They say, you are giving birth to a person with albinism because you had an affair with your spouse when the woman was under her period. And I mean, these are the things. And then, of course, the name calling. The name calling is disastrous. Don't call me Afi, I'm not. Don't call me Mbakaro Boycott. That's from Cross River. The Cross Riverians, the Akwa Iboms, they call us white goat from the bush. I mean, do you expect that for a human being to carry that? They look at you and they call you unfortunate European. I mean, that is unacceptable. And they say to you, you don't see. Or they compliment you by saying, you see better at night than you see in the day. I mean, we are bedeviled with all kinds of stuff. I couldn't. I wanted to be, I did broadcasting. I was a presenter, but I was not able to read the news. If it were to be today, with all the technology around, I would have been a very good newscaster, if you pass me for that. But that's what we go through every now and then. You get to a place where you want to get a job, they say, no, you can't get the job because they don't trust that you will see or you'll be able to do the job. So we are facing these challenges. But for me, Kayode, Jeffrey, and Bukola, those challenges are actually opportunities. I am very grateful to God that He created me and made me a person with albinism. Every day I thank God for who I am. Peradventure, if I didn't have albinism, you wouldn't put me on a national television. So there is always the advantage in what they see as a disadvantage. Bukola, I want to say this, and I say it all the time. You see, the day we were born, can you imagine the day that John was born? John Momo, chairman of Channel Global. Imagine the day he was born. He was the only one crying. Everyone around him were rejoicing. Today, that man at his proper time, when he exits, he will die rejoicing and everyone around him will cry. Why? Because he has contributed a transformative idea that have changed life. That is what I'm living for. I don't live for prosperity, I live for posterity.
Quite inspiring, Mr. Pili, and you can still be that great news anchor, and we'll definitely consider you.
I mean, imagine
for the
this
role.
is Jacob Pili with the headline news. That'll be lovely.
That'll be lovely. We'd like to thank you very much, Mr. Jacob Pili, for your insightful contribution on the program today. Mr. Jacob Pili is the founder of the Albino Foundation. Thank you very much for your time on the program.
Thank you. My pleasure being here.
And so we switch the gears now to a softer side of things, and you'll be meeting an amazing 10-year-old. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Are you ready for this? Ladies and gentlemen, you can hear she has such a beautiful smile. We have for you this morning a very special guest, 13 years old, and this girl has done some amazing stuff. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome with us Simisola Gbadamosi, lead actor. She was taller in that Iwaju Disney movie. She's right here with us in our studio. Simisola.
Good morning. I'm okay. How are you?
We're fine, actually. Thank you for asking. Most people don't ask us, how are you? They just say, let's get into the conversation. Simisola, come on. So a lot of people watched Iwaju and they enjoyed it. And I'm not sure for a moment they thought, there's a real human being that voiced this. Just imagine Tola is Tola. But you are the voice behind Tola. So first, you're a big superstar, right, in school. Do you walk around and they just blow confettis? There's a red carpet for you?
No.
No.
The day that they announced it in school, I said no.
No.
I was scared.
Right?
And then they asked me what I had to say to my fans. I said, thank you.
You have fans, right?
Yes, and so people that I didn't know their names, and it was almost time for sports day, so everybody was like around the same place, just giving me high fives. Say hi, Simia. Hi.
They know me, right?
Yeah, and there was also one time there were these two boys that were blocking the door. I was going to music class, and there were these two boys that were blocking the door, and then one of them, the other one was talking, so one of them told his friend that said, "Move, superstar."
You're living the dream, Simisola. And it's quite interesting that you've done a lot of things before now. We'll get into that, because I understand you have something with baking, you're a business owner of sorts, but we'll get into that. But talk to us how you got that role, because I imagine millions of young Nigerians or young Africans who want to play that role, even adults who want to play that role and have them tweak their voice. They can do that, right? So how did you get the role? How did you feel? What was the process like for you?
So I auditioned.
Right.
It was really just a random day. My mom just said there was a casting call. My mom said, "Oh, there's this thing that they want you to audition for, something." And so I auditioned for it, and I didn't think anything of it because it was almost summer vacation. I was hanging out with my friends. I was getting ready to leave and go have fun with my cousins. And one day she just told me, "You got the role." I'm like, "Oh."
Wow.
I didn't expect myself to get through. I didn't know what it was. They didn't tell me it was Disney until I got it. I was like, what?
You didn't know?
No.
Goodness.
They had a code name. I will not say the code name, but they had a code name. And I was like, oh, wow. Disney. Oh, okay. So the experience, it was really unexpected, really. I don't think that is ever how I pictured my life going. Yeah.
So it's beautiful. For me, if I was an actor, I would take you because you're natural. Is that what they told you?
People have told me that I sound like a cartoon.
You sound like a cartoon?
Yes.
How do you take a compliment, insults? How does it go for you?
Depends on what you had for lunch that day.
It depends on... I feel like it depends on how they are saying. Sometimes my friends say to tease me, like, Simi, you sound like a cartoon. And I'm like, okay.
And does that come from watching a lot of cartoons, by the way?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't... let's see. I don't really watch cartoons. I prefer people.
Oh, really?
But I feel one cartoon that I really, really love is SpongeBob for absolutely no reason.
So I'm wondering, now that you realized, so let's go back to when you got the role. When you realized this is Disney, I can imagine, you're a 10-year-old, so I can't imagine, I don't know whether you were under, did you feel like a pressure? Or like, yes, let's do this. So walk us through your emotion, because that will affect, I guess, how you were able to scale through all of the process.
To be honest, I don't think I can remember it properly, but I think I was scared. Then I was like, Simi, this is Disney. Like, you have no choice. So I think I was scared, but I was excited at the same time because I knew that it's going to reach a lot of people. And it's the first Nigerian animation, and I'm like, oh, this is a big chance. I mean, I might as well. So, yeah.
You have beautiful hair, by the way, Simi. I've been looking at your hair since you sat
Thank you
down.
so much.
But talk to us about how you slipped so comfortably into the role, because I've watched a bit of the trailer, and I realized you're switching, from emotions, from being firm to being scared, and you were 10 at the time, right? That's why I made that mistake. So how were you able to play the role so well?
I am taller as me. Sometimes I feel like they designed the role for me. Like, how are we the same person?
Wow.
So yeah, it wasn't really hard because, well, sometimes she acts a bit, what are you doing? But she acts, I feel like she's a lot, I see myself in her.
I like that. I think that's the dream of everyone, just have a character created for you in an animation. But you're not just a voice actor, right? You're not just an all-round cool person, superstar. I would like us to put up a picture of Simisola. How many years ago? Let me do 7 years ago.
Ooh.
I think you were
5, 6.
5, 6-ish then. And at that point, you founded Simi's Big House.
Simi's Big House.
Do you remember?
I do. I can't forget.
I mean, people your age were battling homework, right? They were battling a lot of things, trying to just be the normal 5-year-old.
Yeah.
But you said, nah, I don't want to be the normal 5-year-old. I want to go on to start a business. And you thought Simi's Big House. Simi, what is going on?
Okay. Baking, it was after my 5th birthday. I was opening presents on the floor, and my mom was like, Simi, you should start a baking business.
So mom is to be blamed for this one.
No, it's to be appreciated. Let's be appreciated for this one, because I really love baking. In my house, I'm the baker, my sister's the cook. So we've decided that someday, somehow, perhaps we will open a restaurant together. That would be fun. But Simi's Bakehouse was really fun. I'm kind of sad that I don't sell my baked goods anymore, but it's okay because It was fun while it lasted. I won an award on my birthday. That was amazing. That was so fun. My family was there with me. Yeah.
And I think it speaks to the role of your parents, your family in all of this. Let's just imagine that they're watching right now. What do you want to tell them about how you maybe appreciate them? Basically, just imagine that they're watching right now.
Thank you so much, because my family has done a lot for me, and they've been my rock. Yeah, my family loves me.
So let's get off that kitchen or baking.
Okay.
To the set. As far as we're concerned now, you're a superstar, being on Disney. And I'm sure there are young people, children literally watching and like, I can do this. You got the role with them, and I'm sure it was a learning curve, the experience. You want to share that experience with us, some of the things you got to realize, okay, I thought this was done this way, but I realized it's done this other way. Just walk us through the process so it becomes a learning curve for someone watching with your age.
Okay. So when I started, the only acting I had ever done was when I was 3, and I was a sheep, and I was singing. So that's not really good enough, you know. But I started, and after a while, my parents signed me up for voice lessons, and so I did that for a year and a half or so, and gradually I got better. And I think that really helped me with like projecting my voice. I'm not gonna lie, when I'm on I'm not a loud person. It's only if I'm screaming that I'm loud. So I think that helped me project my voice, switch my emotions better, like you said. And I think that overall really rounded out Tola's voice.
Okay. Tola, how do you feel saying this?
Yeah, that's
so we've gone back to and you even said, what was that, 2000?
2009.
What milk sold out?
2000 for oatmeal cookies.
That was your baking kitchen, right?
Yes, this was a Christmas entrepreneur fair.
Okay.
That I saw that.
Beautiful. And thank you, Mommy, for supporting Simisola by enrolling her in voice lessons to help you through your role. And you know, you're a big star now, right now. And I imagine there are conversations ongoing at home about what's going to happen after your big appearance in Iwaju series. So for you, Simi, how are you going to build upon this success? And I imagine that, you know, it's a lot for you now. It's like you've acquired a status at such a young age. So is this going to be the end for you, or do you see yourself becoming another Genevieve in another 10 years from now?
After this came out, I used to have a very clear vision of what I wanted to do with my life, but now I'm a bit confused because I am an overthinker and I am a planner. So I already know where I want to go for university. I already know what I want to do, but now I feel like voice acting is also calling my name. And
what did you want to do?
Okay, well, I wanted to be an architect and an interior designer, and I still do, but now I'm just like, can I make them work together? Or...
And what's Mommy and Daddy saying, by the way, about these dreams?
They support my dreams, except somebody doesn't want me to go to the university I want to go to. But it's okay. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. But I think they support my dreams.
What class are you in now?
Year 8. That's SS2, I think. Yeah.
SS2.
Well, that's fast.
Year 8, SS2.
Oh, JSS2.
Yes. Oh, sorry.
No, for us it was JSSS, but now things have changed.
We're grateful you put it in context. When we say year 8, I was a bit lost. Like year 8, I was calculating how am I going to catch up with this. But one thing that's important that I want to highlight, I almost thank your parents for it, is that your ability to speak freely. We noticed it since you got here. How did that happen?
I think personally.
Is it you or the environment that was created for you?
I think personally, I just speak my mind. If you don't like it, I mean, I try to be respectful. I try to put this in it. I have a friend that's, I don't care if you like this answer or not, that's what you get. But me, I feel like I'm like her in some ways, but I'm a bit more subtle about it. But if I need to speak, I will speak to that person in my head so that I don't start screaming. Because anger management.
Are you really 13?
Yes.
So she's like a 13-year-old in a 20-something-year-old
body.
I promise you I'm 13.
We need to confirm.
I promise you.
When you said, I know exactly what I want to be, I'm clear with my thoughts. I mean, they are 40-year-old, they are still confused about what to vote for.
So I think it's part of life, really. When we were young, I know you had wanted to be a doctor.
Oh,
as well. I saw that in the previous interview. So I wanted to be a soldier, be an actor, I wanted to be everything, literally. So it's part of life. And I think life is beautiful when you find your path. You can't overthink everything and try to plan everything. It's good to plan, but things happen and you just go with the flow. But I want you to speak to this, because we look at you and we think, this girl is an adult already. Just give her a voter card and let her vote anyway. If it's one thing you want to tell adults, you wish that adults know about young people that we sort of overlook, I know there's always that friction between child and parents, older ones and young people. But you have this stage. The whole world is listening to you. What do you want adults to know about young people so maybe they can cut you some slack?
I know that there's some adults that think that they're always right. I'm not really close with any of those adults, and I don't think I know any.
Sharp girl.
I don't think I know any.
Oh, that's smart.
Let me not offend anybody. But I think sometimes you're not always right.
Yeah.
This is 2024.
I think in addition to your voice acting, being an architect, maybe you put a diplomat in the mix.
Really?
And add to that a counselor as well.
We're giving you
your calm voice, your maturity would do well in guidance counseling.
We're going to ask your mom for your birth certificate, because I'm really asking that.
She was born when we were singing Nigeria We Healthy.
I wasn't. That was
You can do the national anthem, right?
I can only do it because in music class they
had to teach everybody.
No, so there was a test. Our music teacher made it a test. We had to learn it.
Which of them, the old or the new old?
Oh, okay.
The old new.
Is it the Arise?
The old new. No.
The Nigeria.
Nigeria,
It's good for you. We've known Arise.
Well, we're now anthem offers. We call ourselves anthem offers.
No, he's the anthem
I'm an anthem.
We are
So we look forward to seeing you on bigger projects. Is there something you're working on right now? Don't know specifics, but is there something big we should expect?
Perhaps.
And
that's what I'm going to say, perhaps.
We'll take that. Simisola, it's been an honor having you on the show. Thank you for reminding adults that they're not always right. By the way, I don't belong to that category. They are.
I'm different.
Okay.
I'm different.
I feel like I can see that.
Yeah.
That you're willing to.
Don't you feel cool being with us?
Yeah.
Really cool, right? I thought it was not an interview.
I won't miss out on the opportunity to also say that I'm different.
There you go.
Wow.
Simisola Gbadamosi, lead actor Tola in Iwaju Disney movie. It's been an absolute pleasure having you. I didn't feel like I was speaking to a younger person. I thought we're like in the age range.
Really?
Yeah. So thank you so much. See you later at the playground.
Yeah.
And perhaps you could borrow me some of your hair for my edges, Simisola.
Okay.
You know, I think you're going to have to line up on the waiting list.
There you go. We have to close the show now.
She's quite a delight to talk to.
Wow.
Beautiful delight to talk to. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
What an amazing way to wrap up the show. But we promise you we'll be back with an equally amazing edition throughout next week. Thank you so much for watching. I am Bukola Koka.
And of course, I almost got caught up, because as I finish here, I'm going to ask the mother for that birth certificate, because this girl is so smart for her age. But thank you for watching. Enjoy your weekend. I'm Jeffrey Uzama.
And don't forget, you're not always right. Okay. I'm Kairo Kikilu. Sunrise Daily is next. Have a great weekend. Goodbye.